Welcome to another Money Wednesday, an exciting and timely conversation with our mentor expert, Rosanna Lamana, to talk all about side hustles, that underground economy, and all things that go bump in the night when it comes to taxes. So, welcome. Let's get to it.
Empowering women on a global scale. Welcome to Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. Powerful Women Today is on a mission of inclusion, rewriting his story to include her story, and empowering, raising, and amplifying women's voices with professional speaking, publishing, original podcasting, and web TV. And now here's your host, the founder of Powerful Women Today, Carolina Billings.
Welcome, everyone. A little technical difficulty there. I was watching CNN this morning and they were having technical difficulties. So it just validates my existence. Welcome, Rosanna. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you, Carolina?
I am doing amazing. Thank you. We are entering month 5,000 of the pandemic, and
Sounds about right.
it feels like it. It just got, we are broadcasting from Toronto to all of our friends and audience globally. Just to give you our local take on things, our stay home order has been extended. So we urge everyone to please get vaccinated. Let's all play nice so that we can get back to normal as soon as we can. The pandemic has brought a recalibrating, reshifting of how we buy things, how we buy services, how we earn income. And in our pre-show warm-up, Rosanna eloquently called it has awakened an underground economy. So we are going to speak about all the new ways that people are earning income and creating wealth, and what are the tax implications, both for your clients and for yourself. So welcome, Rosanna. What you were telling me, there's changes, there's some new declarations and regulations that are occurring from the reporting standpoint. Let's start there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very timely to be having this conversation around, different things that people are, or different businesses that people are entering into. Some people are got their day job, but then, looking to do other things on the side. We hear a lot about what they say side hustles. So it's just a matter of making sure that you're tracking and reporting all of the income you earn along with the related expenses. So, you need to think of both of them. People just always think about the revenues, but we know that there's expenses that go with them, and you can claim them, and sort of reporting what your net income is at the end of the day to CRA is going to be very important. And CRA is keeping an eye on these sort of things and making sure that people are reporting all the income that they're earning and not sort of pocketing some of that cash and it going unreported. So they've actually for if you are an incorporated company, there are some specific forms that need to be filled out when you're reporting your internet business activities, for example. So that's very specific in making sure that you claim and report those items. And if you're reporting it on your personal tax return as just a self-employed individual, then even that too, irrespective if you're not, getting a T4 from your employer, which is what you would usually get when you're working in a business, you still need to report any income you make on the side. So if you are selling goods or providing services online, you need to report that income that you're getting on your personal tax return as well, in addition to any other income that you're getting from other sources.
It's interesting you mentioned new forms and new type of reporting. And I was reading an article that, CRA is watching social media. And I find that a little bit, I don't know, just extraordinary that they would be monitoring. The article specifically mentioned that they monitor things like marketplaces or things like, Airbnbs and just all those platform. And it's actually referred to as a platform economy. All of these new ways that we are linking the supply and demand. Now, some of the more formal platform economies, such as eBay and Amazon and even Airbnb, Uber, they are fairly established when it comes to the taxation formula. right? That, it determines, because with eBay and with Amazon is primarily the movement of goods. So it's somewhat easy to determine the taxation based on your ship to address, which is part of GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. But services becomes a little bit, I don't know, more ethereal. If when you are a global service supplier, say you are, we use Toronto as our references in Canada, but really these are applicable worldwide. So take the example, and then it just helps you know the right questions to ask your local accountant or financial coaches. But so say you are a service provider in Toronto and you have clients in Spain, in Mexico, South America, the United States. And, we wish much success to all of our, women and fellow service providers and such. How do you even begin to determine what taxes to charge? Before you can even declare them, you also need to know what taxes to charge. How does
Yeah.
that work for services?
That's a loaded question and not an easy one to answer. Unfortunately, there isn't a
I wouldn't
blanket.
ask any other kind of question.
Complicated, but I think you can break it down into bits in terms of understanding where your sales are going. Where are you providing them? Do you have other people providing them on the ground in those countries?
Mm.
For example, there's a lot of cross-border. I'm going to just use sort of the Canada-US pieces. There's lots of people that are providing services to US customers, but are you going down there to provide the services? Do you hire other employees in the US to carry out those services for you? All of these things, depending on how you answer it, could actually change the
The
answer to your
dynamic,
question around
yeah.
the taxation component. So there's a lot to consider. So I usually recommend whenever you're sort of selling anything, especially outside of Canada, where it's maybe an unknown or foreign environment to you, it's always good to get some, advice, either, from somebody who specializes in sort of tax or state taxes or sales taxes or international tax, because there's different treaties between the countries to also understand how things get taxed. So I always say speak to the experts when it comes to that. If there's no easy answer, and it's all based on facts and circumstances to your specific business. I know sometimes people often come to me and say, my friend said that I can do ABC, and then, so I should be able to too, but the facts and circumstances could be very different. So it's important to do your homework and make sure you understand how the services that you're providing could be, how they can impact, like how tax impacts those services.
Yeah, and there's slight nuances. Just like you said, who do you have on the ground? Are you establishing nexus? That is something that is common. There's criteria that would determine whether you are required to collect state tax, even for U.S. entities doing business in Canada. It's the same way too. That after a certain litmus, they are required to collect HST, or that you need to really speak to an expert like Rosanna, that they can guide you through what taxes to charge, and whether you are establishing responsibility for the collection of taxes, and then also the declaration of taxes.
Yeah.
I was reading in preparing for our interview that through the EDC, that the growth of export of services has surpassed that of goods in Canada. Not as a percentage of GDP, but the growth percentage. So services grew by about 4%, where goods grew by about 1%. So it seems that in this economy shift, especially for women, a lot of women are becoming service providers, either coaches or consultants, and now they're going onto a global platform. Right. So where does someone begin in declaring that income? Because if say you're not charging the sales tax, there's still the income tax. So there's two taxations at play: your sales tax and your income tax. So guide us through, how would someone begin? And I don't know if this is too big a question, but it is, it is so fundamental, right? For as we begin to grow in these global economies, to really know what you're getting into, and what are some questions to ask?
Yeah, I think it's important when you're looking at selling anywhere, and I'm thankful that you actually distinguish between sales taxes versus income tax, because income tax is on the tax that's the taxes pays on income that's generated in your company. So let's focus on that, because sales taxes is a completely different animal.
Okay.
We'll talk about that at another point. But in terms of like the revenue that's generated, like any business, it doesn't matter how big or how small your business is, you still need to track what your sales are to any particular customer, no matter where they are in the world. So, for example, if you are selling to the US or if you are selling to Spain, you still need to track what your revenues are for each of those, to each of the customers in each of those countries. In terms of other sort of tax breaks that you might get in terms of, treaties between companies, that's a separate issue. Nonetheless, you need to make sure that you're claiming and reporting all of your revenues that are generated, like you would for any business that you hold. So I think that's important in step one. And sometimes people think that, okay, well, I'm just doing this, it's just a couple extra bucks on the side. I'm just renting out some, I'm going to use the renting out the property, because you brought up the Airbnb, that I don't need to report the rental income. It is technically rental income. So you should be claiming your rental income on your personal tax return. If you're not in a corporation, you need to still report your rental income, and you also have your expenses relating to renting out that property that you can also claim against that income, so that you're only taxed on sort of the net income that's brought in. But nonetheless, like whenever you are making money of this sort, you should be reporting, tracking it, being organized, and knowing, keeping it, I'm going to call each of your, I'm going to say small businesses or side hustles, as a separate sort of accounting record, if you will, for each of them, because they are technically separate businesses, and you want to know what the income and expenses are for each of those different businesses that you have, right?
And I know that the concept, we Powerful Women Today really champion, and I know you're one of our speakers coming up on our Activating Your 8 Income Stream series. But I know the concept of a side hustle or additional or multiple incomes, brings about that extra taxation, right? Extra income, extra taxation, especially, in countries that have a heavy tax burden, right? So, and there's many, but um, what we must realize is that it makes a big difference if you file as a solopreneur, meaning if you are an employee, say for example, and then you are filing this extra income as a solopreneur, so it's a non-incorporated type of income generation, opposite to a corporation. So let's start with the non-incorporated
Yeah.
scenario. So I work full time, right? Or yeah, I work full time, and I've decided to, like a good, powerful woman, I am going to activate as many income streams as possible. So I am going to either refinish, say, my basement, and turn part of my home into an income property, because I am filing not as a corporation, right? I'm still a person, I'm still an employee with an extra money. I can use tax sheltering tools like RSPs or things like that to diminish that income burden. Can I not?
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, RSPs are a great strategy to help reduce sort of the income. What
Mhm.
the whole concept with RSPs is that, you're going to contribute now, save for your future. Government wants you to do that, so you get to claim your RSPs on your tax return to help reduce your taxes owing. And then in the future, when you have to start taking out that RSP money, the assumption is that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. So it kind of helps you pull out that money at a time that your tax rates are lower, because
Yeah.
let's just say presumably you've retired and you're not earning, say, employment income anymore,
So
for
that is
example.
So that's a great strategy of what to do with that extra money. So you can take all this extra money that you're generating through your second or third income stream and invest it on yourself, on your future self. And then any kind of extra tax, you know, responsibility or burden or liability that you are generating can easily be mitigated by reinvesting that into your future income and future self. So that
Yep.
is an example where activating as many income streams is really part of, as long as if you're keeping the money and spending it, yes, you will have to declare and pay tax on it, as we all should, because it's part of our social fiber. But if you are reinvesting on yourself, if you're not a corporation, that is really a great strategy to prepare for the future and mitigate any, build towards mitigating a wealth gap or an income gap in future years, especially for women, because more women are now retiring alone than before, right? Not whether it's by chance or choice. More women are actually what they're dubbing the silver divorces. That more women at a time when they thought, I'm done, the children are done, I'm an empty nester, they're finding out that they're single, and that opens a whole new can of worms. Now, if you're a corporation, right, if you decide that your side hustle or your investments are significant enough that you create a separate legal entity, then that is what you were explain how what would be some tax strategies that would then become something that somebody can consider if you are having that side hustle, that extra income, second, tertiary income as a corporation.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, usually with your corporation, you're not going to put all of your different side hustles in a specific corporation. For example, you want to have so for example, if you're operating a corporation, what is it that your corporation does? Like one of the questions on the tax return is what's the purpose or nature of your corporation? So you want to stay true to that. If, for example, some people start getting into real estate and actually buying real estate and renting it out, one of the things we usually recommend is keeping that real estate in a separate corporation. And it just
Mm,
really helps to mitigate some of the risks around intertwining the two businesses together. And it also makes it a little bit more palatable if at some point you want to sell your business, but you don't want to sell the property. You don't have to sell the entire thing because they're in different corporate entities. So there is some strategy around, what is it that you're doing? Do you need multiple corporations? And you'd be thinking about that. From a corporation perspective, the tax rates, for a small business, depending if you qualify for a small business, the rates are just over 12% of tax up to 500,000, which is pretty generous when you compare
low,
it
much lower
to
than
yeah.
much lower than personal income tax rates, for sure. Now, there are other expenses that you incur if you are a corporation, like even your tax filing is that much more expensive than doing it at the personal level, right? So you really need to know, like, yes, you can be an employee and have a corporation. You can actually be both, right? In really working with someone like Rosanna or a financial advisor or a coach, but really an accountant is your best bet, because they really understand the tax filing implication of it. Is that you are able to have the right structure for the different income streams, right? And over the next, if you are wanting to join us, Tuesday, May the 18th at 1 o'clock Eastern, we begin our 8 income stream series, and they all have good and bad. There's good and bad to everything. So you just need to pick the right reporting structure for the right tool that you're using to protect yourself, to make sure that you know how to report it, that you pay the appropriate tax, to know the limits, to know what legally you can do to mitigate tax liabilities. Like there are things like income splitting and, like Rosanna said, expenses that you can write off directly linked to those extra income streams and side hustles. But do know that now, because of the pandemic, in a lot of retail, in a lot of the normal hospitality and retail, in the way that the government was collecting taxes through all those sales, that has diminished, right, to a large percentage, because people are holding on to money, or they are not going out we can't, they're not going out to spend their money, and they're turning online to either sell or buy. And it is now being monitored to some degree.
Yeah, and they've also introduced some new measures recently in the new federal budget around even say companies from the US who are selling goods into Canada and the sales taxes that they need to charge. So there's some new rules even from those outside of Canada coming to Canada to sell their goods as well. So it's ever so important to really understand all the tax implications of all the transactions that you enter into. And this isn't meant to be a scare tactic. It's just more of a, educate yourself, make sure you know what you need to do. It just helps you sleep better at night, knowing that you're doing all the right things and keeping good record of what you're doing in terms of what you're selling, what you're paying, and to whom. All these sort of things really make tax time that much more easier to deal with.
Yeah. In making sure, even if it is, a little side thing, that oftentimes great things, Powerful Women Today began as a side, as a passion project that just like grew and grew and grew. But it's important that you keep track of where that money is being generated. So if you have like sales into the US and sales into different countries, that you have the means to go back at the end of the year and know what percentage of those sales come from all the different regions. Because the thing about audits and the thing about taxes or inquiries regarding taxation is that if there is anything that without malice, that may have been missed or may have not been reported properly, it's not just that transaction. It's that it opens the door to went back and more and more, and the more, before you know it, it's like years that you're doing a review on. And it can, needless to say, be a great source of stress when all of that could easily be avoided by having the right conversation, and just getting in touch with someone like Rosanna. Because what I like about Fuller Landau, and yes, in full disclosure, Rosanna is one of our mentor experts, and we do great collaborations with Fuller Landau. But what I like about you guys is that you're a full service firm to a large degree, right? And so even if your primary contact is Rosanna, and it all of a sudden expands onto real estate or expands into foreign trade or export imports into all of that, there's a team that is there ready to support that knowledge in the network, the international network that you guys are connected with. And now I'm
Exactly.
going to come work for Fuller Landau because I'm doing
You're
great
hired.
job promoting it. But it's true, being able to have a dialogue. And so when somebody has all these questions, right? Is there such thing as a discovery call that they can do with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, we encourage it actually. Anytime we take on a new client, it always starts with a phone call to understand what they need, what they do and what they're looking to do, and seeing how we might be able to help them. And as you said, we've got a team of professionals. Depending on what's required, we can connect you with the right individuals, and we come together as a team to serve them as well, in terms of ensuring that all their needs are met. So for example, we work with a lot of private companies, family businesses. We have a family office practice. So we all collaborate together and surround you with the right advisors at the table, so that we're all thinking about it perhaps from different angles, but at the same time thinking of being very client centric in terms of what does the client need and how we can help them holistically and achieve all their goals and objectives. So it always starts with a phone call. It's an actual important first step. It doesn't cost anybody anything to have that initial conversation, but through that conversation, we'll, I'm going to say, call a little bit of a needs assessment and figure out what you really need and how we can help you with that, or connect you with someone who can.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you are all of a sudden find yourself in the middle of an audit or do your taxes, and you should always get to review them before they're filed. And if you're suddenly finding, either due to a change in the services that you provide in the regions and territories that you're servicing, If something all of a sudden is considerably different from years past, you can always get a second opinion. Like, it's okay for you to say, you know what, I need to have this reviewed, right? And make sure that you are maximizing all of your write-offs. I know for a fact that, there's many credits, everything's changing always, especially
Yeah.
now. It's like we're 10xing, right? We're playing catch up, making sure that everybody has everything they need to thrive and survive and thrive through the pandemic. And I have to tell you, Revenue Canada, even like from the beginning of the pandemic to now, they have done you never think of the government moving fast, but they they have done an incredible job at adapting, to an online platform, to their client experience, to all new forms. Like every time you log in, they've updated sites, they've done different things. So before you miss anything, just go to the experts, and if it is outside of Canada or outside of Ontario or in a slight different area, you can even go to Powerful Women Today and take a look at all of our mentor experts, all of the services they provide. They're all licensed professionals within their field of modality, and get a second opinion. Inform yourself. That's where the first step towards empowerment begins. So on Tuesday, we're going to be speaking about activating. We mentioned 8 income streams. And we're going to begin with real estate on Tuesday because it's one of the easiest. And actually, we are seeing the greatest transfer of wealth between generations from baby boomers to Gen X. And a lot of women are inheriting properties, are inheriting a lot of money, are inheriting portfolios, and they are having to manage it themselves, again, by chance or choice. And we really need to know what the best way to activate that money, or to find a way to activate an income stream or wealth creation through real estate. And we are pleased to have Rosanna as one of our mentor experts, along with Marlene Doss, who is an attorney specializing in real estate, and Michelle Mendoza, who is a real estate investor and also a real estate expert advisor, and myself, whom I made quite a bit of money on real estate. After my divorce, real estate became the greatest source to rebuild my portfolio after a major change in life. And that is a great way for women to get back, because every divorce, every change in your life sets you back financially, both parties. And in real estate, in investing through real estate, is one of the ways that is, especially in certain markets like Toronto and some of the major markets, is a sure way to get back on track and to start rebuilding some of the equity loss in life changes. So thank you so much, Rosanna. Always a pleasure. I'm always, informed. And every time we prepare for our monthly review, you are up to date on all the information needed. And this is why you can count on our partners at Fuller Landau for the latest and greatest information. So thank you, everyone. I let you do our closing remarks. And just before that, stay safe. Make sure you follow guidelines, get your vaccination, and let's get back to business. It will take all of us. So go ahead, Rosanna.
No, thank you, Carolina. It was great to be part of this. And I guess our one takeaway from today is really sometimes we think that we can do everything ourselves and know all of the answers, but sometimes it's just good to bounce an idea off someone else to make sure that you're doing and reporting all of the right things to stay out of trouble. Really, at the end of the day, the CRA also does have some voluntary disclosure programs in place. Should you have made some errors along the way, we can try and make it right. So there's some opportunities for you in that regard as well. So hopefully everyone just stay on track, keep note, keep organized, and no issues. Have a great day, everyone.
Stream.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a great day. See you Friday.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Empowering women on a global scale. This has been Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. To learn more about how you can join and transform your life and the lives of women everywhere with professional speaking, publishing, podcasting, and web TV, visit powerfulwomentoday.com. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen and watch your podcasts.